It's time for Fight News Now Extra. I'm John Pollock with all of today's headlines, and then Robin Black will be by as we chat about how the fighters are getting hit in the sponsorship game. Rory McDonald speaks out about the welterweight division, and Robbie Lawler comments on a possible third fight with Johnny Hendricks. The new UFC welterweight champion Robbie Lawler was a guest speaking with Sherdog this past week, discussing the title win and what might be next for Lawler. The champion said if a third fight with Johnny Hendricks is what the UFC wants, then he believes he will beat Hendricks again, but wants the fight to take place in late May, June, or July of next year. Lawler has fought 4 times in 2014, with 3 of those fights being main events where he was training for 5 rounds. And if Lawler and Hendricks end up fighting for a third time, what will happen with Rory McDonald? McDonald has gone 3-0 this year with wins over Damian Maia, Tyron Woodley, and Tarek Saffiedine, following his loss to Lawler at UFC 167 in November of last year. McDonald was in Las Vegas this past weekend and shared his confidence with members of the media, stating that he believes he can put anyone in the 170-pound weight class away. And finally, amidst all of the discussion regarding this week's Fighter and the Kid podcast with Brendan Schaub, was the mention that 6 of his sponsors had pulled out this time around for his fight with Travis Brown. Schaub believes it was because they knew the Reebok deal was coming, and that led to their decision to pull out. Schaub stated that he was at one point making double in sponsorship what he was in fight pay. And I'm here with Robin Black. John Ramdeen is avoiding Sons of Anarchy spoilers, so he is not with us. The spoiler is that the father was revealed. It was just a crazy show. But Robin Black, you are here. Lots of stuff to discuss. Robbie Lawler kind of inferring that he wants a bit of a break, and I think deservedly so.
Yeah.
Not just 4 fights. The fact this guy, 3 of those, training for 5-round fights. And if you look at how many champions got hurt over the past year or so, I think training for 5-round fights, there's definitely a correlation there to what this guy's put his body through in 2014. He needs a break.
Yeah, he certainly does. That is a crazy, crazy assignment for the kind of year that he had. And tough fights against the toughest men in the world. And he more or less would have just stayed in training camp the whole year. You know, you'd take off a week here, half a week there. But for the most part, that's been his year, is just training to fight. Did it work out for him? It worked out for him. That thing, you know, the welterweight champion of the world. You got to look at it and say, I made this work. But you also got to look at it and say, I forget what my wife looks like. You know, I don't know about anything else in the world other than fighting. You can't relate to most people that you're having conversations with. Take some time off and do something else other than punch dudes.
Yeah, the idea that we went into this fight about fighting in March in Montreal, I just think that's way too early. I hope this guy gets a number of months off. Having said that, who makes the most sense to you right now? What is the fight Robin Black wants to see next for the welterweight title? Because I think you can make arguments either way.
Yeah, that's a really tough one, because I am, like, as a fan of fighting, I find Rory to be a really interesting guy, a really interesting character. You know, you talk to his coaches and his training partners, and he has that in him, that sort of aggressive nature, that desire to go and do the smashing and get smashed if need be. And I really enjoy watching this guy fight. But I did really enjoy both of those 2 fights with Hendricks. And whichever way you're going to go is probably fine by me. But what if Lawler does take a bunch of time off?
I think you're going where I think.
Like, do we make those guys fight each other?
In Montreal in March.
Yeah.
I think that that's a great fight to make. It's still a 5-round fight. Yeah. I think that would it would answer the question right away. And you want a big card in Montreal if that's where you're going to go. And I think Rory McDonald, Johnny Hendricks, that makes a lot of sense.
For sure.
Montreal.
Even from a selling point of view, it's like, I beat up GSP and I got robbed in that fight.
And Hendricks has fought in Montreal on 2 occasions. He had the Campman knockout there and that fight of the year contender with Carlos Condit.
I dig it.
Let's move over and chat about the sponsorship deal, because lots of stuff coming out of that Brendan Schaub interview with Joe Rogan and Brian Callen. But one of the points kind of looked over was the sponsorship message that Brendan Schaub had, where prior to the Travis Brown fight, about 6 sponsors had pulled out, and Schaub's theory was that these sponsors knew the Reebok deal was coming. And it's going to be like this for the next 6 months, is that what new sponsors are going to want to put money into something that they know there's not going to be any return on past July, when they're going to be shut out of this deal. And Brendan Schaub's one of those guys that got a lot of sponsorship money. He's not in the top 15, so he'll be one of those bottom-tiered guys. And I don't think there's, whatever the figure turns out to be, it seems like he's going to take a hit from this.
Yeah, guys like him will. I mean, I think he might have been exaggerating where he said, I make double in sponsorship. Maybe once he did or sometimes, but let's say he makes 40 or 50 grand in sponsorship. As a guy who might be 16th or 17th in the ranking, I don't see any way they're going to make that. My guesses are the lowest guys are making 5, 7,000 in sponsorship. The middle guys are making 10, 15. The top guys are making 20, and the champions are making more than that.
I've heard of some guys that have gone in as little as like $500 in sponsorship money. Some that don't even go out and get anything.
Oh, 100%. Like, there's this big myth that sponsorship money is huge. There will be guys, and if Schaub is one of these guys, there will be guys that will lose money. But the bottom tier guys, average was $1,500 these guys were making. That's what you were making. You know, these days of making tens of thousands of dollars for a sponsorship. If you're on an undercard or a Fight Pass card, you're making $500, $1,000, maybe $1,500. I mean, that's what's out there. That's the value.
A lot of it, it's some of these people that, you know, it's just to help the fighter out. They know there's really nothing in it for them. They're not getting any tangible return from this. It's more, it's, hey, we know this guy, let's throw him some money. And then you have that sponsorship tax for some, which is varying levels, which is a real hindrance to these guys. I think Bellator, this is a great selling point to them. You know, they kind of couch this UFC Reebok deal as it's a capitalistic deal. But, you know, Robin, if you are ranked 20th and you can go out there and you can sell yourself to get all these sponsors, well, you're not now in that position where you can go out and make as much as you can. You're capped at a level.
Yeah, Felice Herrig makes a lot of money in sponsorship. She's really pretty, and she pushes, you know, interaction with fans and stuff. She makes a lot of money. She's going to be making whatever the minimum is with the Reebok deal. So there's definitely people that will be hurt by it, but there's a much larger amount that are going to make more money for sure. In the long run, I think it'll be like, here's how much you make. Everyone will get accustomed to that, and there won't be that new ceiling unless you're the champion. But it's kind of the situation now where only the top guys are getting paid a lot anyway.
Yeah, and the hope that these fighter kits, they can sell them in a high volume to make money off that in royalties. For Robin Black, I'm John Pollock. Sit back for more Fight News Now Extra.